Good morning, viewers. If you are just watching, just to remind you that you are watching Germano Media on TV product. So here today on our headlines on the 8th of February 2023, we got three stories from the Standard newspaper, and the stories headlines are as follow: 9 in race for NPP back ticket, and also auditor asked GD boards to recover over 4 million unjustifiable paid to consultant. On the international news, we also have Denmark ordered to apologize to Gambian Swedish MP over racial discrimination. And also now we repeat on the stories. 9 in race for NPP back tickets, according to the Standard newspaper by Lamin Cham. 9 people have applied for the ticket of the governing National People's Party for Brikama Area Council chairmanship election. Confirming this to the Standard yesterday, the NPP regional chairman in West Coast, Lamin Jada, said the application process has ended and the next phase of the selection process is expected tomorrow, Thursday, when the national executive members will meet the regional constituency and ward committees on the matter. And Mr. Jada said so far, none among the 9 aspirants has been officially selected. I want to make this very clear that no one has recommended or imposed any name to the chairman or the regional committee, and that all applicants will be fairly and equally treated until due process is done and the right eventual candidate is selected. It could be any one of them, but of course only one can be the candidate. What is expected, however, is that every NPP supporter or member should support the one who eventually became the candidate, Mr. Jada said. The full list of applicants is as follows: Sirifo Sonko, Tuba Kuta, and Ahmed Jite Kiti, Lamin M. Bojang Jambur, Lamin Base Bojang Burfoot, and Lamin Konate Tujereng Alaji Jane Ol Yundum, Basiru Dabo Tujereng Fulakunko, and Sidi Sise Burfoot. Tamsir Jase, Sanchaba Sule Job. These were the 9 applicants for the Brikama Area Council chairmanship under the ticket of NPP National People's Party. And on the same Standard newspaper, auditor asked GT board, the Gambia Tourism Board, to recover over 4 million unjustifiable paid to a consultant. According to the Standard newspaper, written by Umar Bah, the National Audit Office has requested the Gambia Tourism Board to recover $4 million is paid to Lair Group for onward payment of a consultant for the construction of eco lodge across the country. According to the National Audit Office, audit of procurement and finance transaction for the construction of ecotourism camps, lodge, and GD board has not provided any documentary evidence that suggests that the consultant was indeed hired or engaged by them. The report highlighted that the transfer of $4 million is $683,283 to Lair Group for onward payment to the consultant suggests that the consultant was hired by the contractor contrary to the claims made by the Gambia Tourism Board. Unless evidence is provided to show the contractual relationship between the Gambia Tourism Board and consultant, we maintain our position that the consultant is contracted or engaged by the contractor, and the Gambia Tourism Board has no obligation to make any payment for consultancy service. The National Audit Office said GT Board, as the Gambia Tourism Board explained, responding to the National Audit Office queries, the Gambia Tourism Board management wrote, we have noted the audit's observation in this situation. However, we want to clarify that the consultant was not hired by the contractor, but rather the consultant was engaged by the Gambia Tourism Board management in the first instance to design the project concept for the 5 identified ecologies to be built. This service was successfully carried out by the consultant, but due to some reasons, the consultant was not paid for his air service, as it happened during the peak period of the COVID-19 when almost all staff were asked to stay at home. According to the Gambia Tourism Board, the contractor, upon receipt of the 40% advance contract sum, could not begin work on the seat as the consultant was holding on the designs because the Gambia Tourism Board failed to pay his service. Those in order to avoid further delay as the foundation was laid earlier and times was running against the contract that was signed, the contractor decided to pay the consultant and obtain the design from him. Therefore, the two payments made to the contractor-led group totaling $4,683,283 were actually payments in respect to the design work done by the consultants. We informed that we intend to regularize the situation at the initial stage as advised by the visiting audit team in November 2021. But the office felt the need to fully terminate the contract and sue the contractor to court for failing to adhere to the contract agreement, the GT board added. Meanwhile, in a related matter, the auditor said discussions with officials at the Gambia Tourism Board revealed that the board had cabinet approval to utilize revenues generated from the tourism development levy account for tourism-related infrastructure development, although the cabinet paper was not provided for their confirmation up to the day of writing this report. Further discussions with the official confirmed that the construction of the proposed ecotourism camps will be financed from the same funds. Our review of the bank statement shows a transfer payment of $44,676,210 is made to the group, representing 40% of the total contract price for the construction of 5 ecologies across the region, leaving a balance of only $28,266,721 in the account, which will be insufficient to cover the outstanding balance to be paid to the contractor, $67,014,315 at the time of writing this report. This figure excludes the cost variation in Bara, Sutuma, Sambakoi, and Kunkling Forest. The auditor said, according to the National Audit Office, there is a risk of litigations as the Gambia Tourism Board might fail to make outstanding payment and the government might be forced to step in and make up on budget payments. Other potential tourism infrastructure development might be affected since nearly the entire revenue generated from the tourism development levy is directed towards financing the Eco Lodge project. The National Audit Office added the Gambia Tourism Board in response said every year it prepares a budget covering its activity to be carried out during the period, and that includes all the TDA projects. They are in a place the TDA accounts maintained where funds generated from the TDA lands allocations are deposited to, and these funds are utilized for TDA-related development activities as indicated in our yearly budgets in which ecologies are part of, the Gambia Tourism said. And now we move to the international story. That is a Denmark order to apologize Gambian Swedish MP over racial discrimination. And still on the Standard newspaper by Umar Ba, the United Nations Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination has ordered Denmark to offer a public apology and compensate a Swedish MP of Gambian ancestry Malcolm Jallow over racial discrimination. In 2018, Mr. Jallow filed a case at the United Nations Committee alleged to be a victim of a violation by Denmark, a state party of the Articles 4A, 4C, and 6 of the United Nations Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, the Convention. The petition referred to an art of exhibition sponsored by the Danish People's Party held in the Danish Parliament building, as well as in a private at-large gallery in Copenhagen in 2014. The collection included an image of Jallow and 2 other black persons hanging from a bridge with the caption "Hang on, Afrophobians," and other image of Jallow depicted as a runaway slave from his master along with the text "Our Negro slave has run away," as well as a picture of 2 Roma community leaders with the words "Gypsy crimes are something good." The creator of these pictures had been convicted in Sweden of defamations and inciting hatred against an ethnic group. However, in Copenhagen, the images were exhibited with an explanatory text based on the interview given by the artist, explaining the picture, background, and purpose, as well as reference to the conviction by the Swedish court concerning each of them. Jallow then filed a complaint against the artist and the organizers of the exhibition before the Danish authority alleged racial discrimination. The state prosecutor of the Copenhagen initiated An investigation board decided to discontinue the proceedings in the light of domestic legislation and the Article 10 of the European Convention of Human Rights on Freedom of Expression. After his appeal was rejected in Denmark, Jallow brought this case to the United Nations Committee in 2018, stating that the decision to stop the investigation continued a violations of the provisions on the bans of racial superiority, hatred, and incitement to racial discrimination under the Convention of the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. Denmark ratified the Convention of 11 October 1985, recognizing the competence of the committee to receive the consider communication from individuals or group of individuals. Following 5 years of thorough investigation, United Nations body found in Denmark culpable of failing to take effective measures against racist hate speech by discontinuing its investigation about the art of exhibition showing racist hate images. The committee issued its decision after reviewing a petition filed by Mamadou Jallow. It does not suffice merely to declare acts of racial discrimination punishable on paper. Criminal laws and other legal provisions prohibiting racial discrimination, including race hate speech, must also be effectively implemented, said the committee member Mehabdat Parihananda in a statement shared with the Standard newspaper. The committee considered that the picture in the petition constituted expression of racist hate speech, as this image amounted to the dissemination of ideas based on racial or ethnic superiority or hatred, incitement to hatred, contempt, or discrimination. The committee highlighted the importance of striking a balance between the right to freedom of expression and obligation to combat racist hate speech. In this case, the depictions and words expressing the idea of racial superiority. Some of the pictures displayed specific anti-discrimination activists with message to humiliate them and tarnish their dignity, and that can incite racial hatred and violence. By depicting black people and members of Roma community in a degrading manner, the pictures affect not only the right of the patriot individual but also those of other group members under the convention, he added. The committee found that the Danish authorities failed to give an appropriate and proportional response to combat this incident of racial discrimination. Therefore, it requests Denmark to apologize to the petitioner and grant him full reparations, 500 said. And those were our stories on the Standard newspaper. And if you are just watching, this is Jamano Media. So once again, I am your presenter Adam Manjai on Jamano Media and Product.